If you're like me, I love to watch financial channels just to see what I can learn. And I don't know really how to put this, but sometimes it really bothers me when I see people say something and it's wrong. And I don't really want to attack anybody, but they're really either it's wrong or it's a half truth. And here's one I recently saw. We were talking about sequence of returns risk. We also know how dangerous that can be when you first retire. In this situation, this supposed expert said the following: sequence of returns risk is a concept that a lot of people don't really understand, and they've never had to deal with it because in the accumulation years, there's no sequence of returns risk. It doesn't matter what the sequence the returns come, the end result is going to be the same. So I decided to set up some spreadsheets. What I did let's just take numbers from 1925. These are the numbers returns for 1925 going forward for the next 25 years, and I simply reversed them. You can see the 2583 is down here, the 1879 is up there, and what we did is put $10,000 in, and at the end of 25 years, how much was left? Down here you can see. In this order, it ended up 62,162. This order was totally opposite. How much did it end up with? 62,162. So you may be asking, what's the problem? It looks like this person's right. The result's always going to be the same. My problem I have is this is a half truth. Not very many people just stick one amount in and leave it, never touch it again. If you do that, yes, because of the way numbers work out, it would be the same, identical. No matter what year you pick, the numbers would be different, final results, but they'd all end up being the identical when you reverse the returns for this 25-year period. But is that the way people really invest? I wanted to see what happens. Most people just put in so much a month, so much a year, or whatever. And so when I did that, here's what I ran up with. Again, I set up the same kind of a thing. Here's 1925 numbers going forward. They're the returns for the next 25 years. These are reversed, but I want you to notice a huge difference. I just picked, say you put in $400 a month, it should be 4,800 every year for 25-year period. Look at the difference, folks. Always the difference is over here, right here. So in this, if you had returns like this, you'd have almost a $30,000 difference. But it changes huge amounts. Look at 1926 numbers, $154,000 difference. Why? Because each year you're adding more to it. So you're not just starting out with one number and staying with it all the way through there so that the algebra or the numbers will work out to be identical at the end. It all depends on when these returns are, what the returns are doing on these new amounts you're putting in each year. And so when you reverse them, the numbers can be hugely different. Just follow a few other $343,000 difference. Almost $600,000 difference. In fact, let's look at the 1929 numbers. Which would you rather have? The bad returns at the beginning of your investing 25-year period or at the end? Look at this. If you're putting this $4,800 in initially, yeah, it's going to go through some down years. But if you don't have those down years until the reverse of the sequence, and you're down here and you got up to 462,000, and then you get hit with these 4 down years, again, the reverse order of this, you're going to be down to 176,000. Whereas in this case, with the 4 down years, initially, this money's got time for it to recover with these greater returns, and you end up with $374,000 more if you take the returns in this order as opposed in this order. And you can pick any year you want and see the differences. Sometimes it's huge, sometimes it's close. But do you see the difference there? Most people do not put the money in there, just slap one number in there and leave it in there and never touch it again. If you did that, yes, your numbers will be the same because you're doing the same, having these numbers affected the same. It's just in reverse order. But it's when you start changing the numbers each year, that's when it really affects how much you end up, and there can be a huge difference. If we have 1942 numbers, you'd be a lot better off having the reverse order you'd have 1.408 million because you had these numbers, these returns right here later on in your return. Rather than getting these really positive returns right off the bat on this 4,800 each year, you get it near the end here. So these last 5 years, 4 years, you went from 555,000 at these kind of returns, you know, 1.408 million. Whereas the reverse of that, you'd only have 938,000, which is almost $500,000 less. But sometimes I look at this and I go, wait a minute. That's kind of a half truth. It's not really true because that's not the way most people invest. And I'm always hesitant to question somebody, but I'm a numbers guy and I just love to look at numbers. In this case, I thought this was a misrepresentation to say this to the point because that's not the way people invest. So sequence of returns risk can affect even in the accumulation years. We know in other videos we show you how the sequence of returns risk can really have a negative impact once you retire and once you start withdrawing and during the withdrawal years. But it can also affect it in the accumulation years. But that's what we do on this channel. We love to run numbers for people. Our channel is called $1,000,000 Made Easy. We create all kinds of different spreadsheets, run numbers, look at different things, run numbers for people, look at different things that are being talked about. And we just like to put actual numbers to what people are saying. Please like the video and thanks so much for watching.